Good morning. My name is Valentina Maestre Mejia. I'm 20 years old and I'm in my seventh semester of a bachelor's degree in Spanish and English. My expectations for this course are to gain a deeper understanding of the history, tradition, customs, and a diverse cultural expression of English speaking countries. I would like to establish a connection between the language and its civilizations and various cultures in order to broaden my knowledge and obviously be able to interpret English within its social and historical context.
My name is Dana Granada. I'm 19 years old and I'm also in my seventh semester of a bachelor's degree in Spanish and English. I hope this course will allow me to learn about and understand the history, the culture, traditions, and social aspects of English speaking countries and develop tools that will help me as a future teacher to teach the language in a more contextualized and meaningful way.
Well, today we will explore the concepts of culture and civilization, specifically within our context, the city of Valledupar. But before we begin, it's important to understand what we mean by culture and civilization. From my perspective, I consider culture to be the way of life that people follow. This can include traditions, religion, values, art, writing, and music. We also know that culture is something that can be passed down from generation to generation. On the other hand, we have civilization, which for me relates to the organization of societies, including elements such as government, economy, and social structures. For me, these two categories are not independent. Culture gives meaning to the structures of civilization.
Well, from my perspective, culture can be understood as the set of beliefs, customs, traditions, values, and forms of expressions that shape the identity of a group of people. It is transmitted over time and can influence how individuals understand and interact with the world. Civilization, on the other hand, refers more to the way a society organizes itself through institutions such as government, the economy, education, and social systems. However, like Valentina, I think both concepts are closely related since culture influence the development and functioning of these social structures.
To begin, let's talk about social interactions in Valledupar. A great example of this is the Parranda Vallenata, which is basically a social gathering where vallenato is played. Family, friends, and acquaintances share, talk, sing, and listen to music. This is often accompanied by alcoholic beverages or traditional food, and these gatherings can be held for birthdays and all kind of celebrations. It's very common to see people on their patios with the music on Saturdays. From my point of view, these kind of gatherings are part of the culture because they reflect values like friendship, hospitality, and community. This is a tradition passed down from generation to generation. Many people from Valledupar have childhood memories of falling asleep in a chair during a party.
Yes, in Valledupar, family gatherings around food are a very common practice, such as the typical paseos de olla. These are often spent at the river, and the lunch is prepared spontaneously using stones and firewood found along the way. It is not just a family lunch, it becomes a space for conversation, sharing experience, and strengthening bonds among family members. From my perspective, these gatherings are primarily part of our culture because they reflect our customs, values, and ways of relating to our families. They also allow us to pass on traditions from one generation to the next.
Now let's explore some of our city's celebrations and traditions. First, we have the renowned Festival de la Leyenda Vallenata, one of the representative cultural expressions. Celebrated since 1968, it features accordion competitions, composers, singers, and more. We can say that we can say that this tradition is an integral part of our culture. Held annually, it preserves values, symbols, music, and ancient traditions, such as poetry, dance, and storytelling. It can also be considered civilization because it requires organization, infrastructure, public spaces, and economic activity to take place. This festival has a significant impact on the system tourism, commerce, and transportation of the city.
Another important tradition in Valledupar is the Festival del Dulce Vallenato, especially during Holy Week. At this fair, people prepare, share, and sell traditional sweets such as tamarind balls, coconut candy, potato candy, and many others. People even come from other cities to attend the celebrations and try the sweets. From my perspective, this is part of the culture because it preserves traditional recipes and culinary knowledge passed down from generation to generation. It is also part of civilization because the fair requires social organization and involves commerce, local businesses, and economic activity.
In every city, there are certain institutions responsible for safeguarding specific social practices. In Valledupar, the Festival de la Leyenda Vallenata Foundation, in addition to organizing the festival, is responsible for preserving its traditions. This allows us to observe a clear relationship between culture and civilization. We see how a foundation is responsible for preserving musical and cultural traditions by organizing the structure of competitions, events, and activities which represent a dimension of civilization.
Another example is the rules of conduct in Valledupar's public space. In parks and public areas, the people are expected to respect others, keep things clean, take care of the facilities, and use recreational areas appropriately. Although this is what is expected of the community, it is often not followed. Evidence of this is um, includes the poor maintenance of some parks, the accumulation of trash in certain areas of the city, and other issues. These rules are part of the culture as they reflect the values and behaviors that the community considers appropriate. They are also part of civilization since they are linked to the organization, infrastructure, and management of public space.
Now let's explore some of Valledupar's most visited places. The Parque de la Provincia is a public space in Valledupar that embodies the city's cultural and musical identity. It's an integral part of the civilization, providing organized infrastructure for social and recreational activities, and it also represents significant value for the city's economy and tourism. The park incorporates cultural elements such as statues and monuments to various artists.
Another popular spot is Parque de la Vida, an important space in Valledupar that combines nature, recreation, and elements related to the city's identity. The Department government notes that the park was conceived as a space connected to the tropical dry forest and features species such as cañahuate, puy, ceiba, oak, and mango trees. It also contains five sculptures with different meanings. Among them are Amor y Vida, which bears the names of more than 1,000 people who died in the context of the armed conflict. Las Lavanderas, which pays homage to a Valledupar tradition, and La Ramita de Cañahuate, related to the flower of the city's emblematic tree. The park also has sport areas and children's play areas. It is part of the culture because its sculptures are symbols, represent the traditions and identity of the community. At the same time, It is part of civilization because it has urban infrastructure and space dedicated to recreation and community interaction.
Every city has its signature dishes, and one that has always been familiar to me since childhood is chivo guisado. It's part of the traditional gastronomy, and I remember that my mother learned the recipe from my great grandmother. And preparing this dish is like treasure family tradition. This is a testament to our culture, to how knowledge, customs, and ways of sharing are preserved.
That's right, Valentina. I have always believed that a place cuisine is closely linked to its identity. In this case, as people from Valledupar, sancocho is a traditional dish that is very representative of Valledupar. And I have personally been eating it by my whole life. There are different varieties like chicken sancocho and goat sancocho, which are usually prepared with ingredients like yuca, jam, green plantain, arracacha, pumpkin, and corn on the cob. However, it's important lies not only in the food itself, but also in the moments created around it. Sancocho is often present at family and social gatherings where people share a meal that that is why it is part of our culture because it represents our culinary traditions and local identity.
We have talked about the Festival de la Leyenda Vallenata, but it's important to understand what vallenato is. Basically, it's one of the most important musical expressions of the city of Valledupar. Traditionally, it used the caja, a type of drum, the guacharaca, a percussion instrument, and the accordion. It comprises four rhythms that are paseo, merengue, son, and puya. For the culture of Valledupar, vallenato as a musical genre expresses stories of love and sadness, reflects the values of the society, and maintains the city's memory and identity.
On the other hand, the Danza de las Piloneras is a highly representative artistic expression of the vallenato tradition and is part of the activities of the Festival de la Leyenda Vallenata. Every year, it attracts hundreds of tourists who come to enjoy the spectacular show. This dance combines music, movements, customs, and collective participation, becoming a way to preserve the custom and cultural memories of the region. It is part of the culture because it transmits traditions and regional identity. At the same time, it is part of civilization because its performance within the festival requires organization, institutions, and suitable space for its development.
Another aspect that we can analyze about our city is its expressions. I believe that a foreigner can understand the literal meaning of words, but not necessarily their social significance. This is because the meaning and use of words vary greatly depending on the situation. For example, the expression aha is very common in the region, but its meaning depends on the context and the intonation with which it is used. It can be used to affirm, draw attention, show interest, or question. This is because language, as part of culture, reflects certain norms or patterns that are part of social interaction.
Following this idea, another expression that reflects the culture of our region is nojoda. Like aha, its meaning can change depending on the context and the speaker's intonation. It can express surprise, admiration, disbelief, or emphasis. This shows that language is more than just the literal meaning of words. It also reflects the way people in a community communicate and express emotions. Therefore, Nohoda is part of our culture because it is a characteristic expression of the Caribbean way of speaking.
Very well. Now that we have explored the context of Valledupar, Let's conclude with a brief reflection. These practices demonstrate that Valledupar has a very strong identity, one that is connected to its music, gastronomy, and language. I believe that our community's worldview is represented through the preservation of our roots and customs. Through them, we maintain a connection to our history, which is passed down from one generation to the next. Responding to the question of whether a foreigner could correctly understand these practices, I believe not necessary because they wouldn't fully grasp their cultural significance even if they recognize them. To help them to understand, we can present the city, the historical and social context, its values, traditions, and reasons behind them, so they can grasp the underlying meanings of the traditions or culture of the city.
Well, I believe that when you look at all these practice together, they demonstrate that our community's identity is built through the way we share, communicate, celebrate, and preserve our traditions. They reveal a worldview in which family, community, local history, and traditions play a significant role in daily life. These practices are not just activities, they are ways of expressing who we are and how we connect with one another. As for whether a foreigner will understand them correctly, I think it's very complicated, or they might not understand them at all. They could understand that people are doing, but some meanings could be difficult to grasp without knowing the cultural context. For example, understanding a traditional food or expression requires more than just knowing its literal meaning. It requires knowing why it is important to the community and what it represents. Um, that's all. Thank you so much for watching. See you.